default access specifier or not? Default access specifier. So this one here I am providing public, so it is compulsory to specify the access specifier as public. Public here a student for suppose. Public students inside this one. Here I am writing parameterized constructor. So int number, comma, string name, and also string address for suppose. So here I am assigning this dot number equals to number. Here I am using this dot number equals to number. Why I am writing this dot number? Here both parameter name and actual instance variable name is same. So at that situation, if you are providing like this number equals to number means JVM cannot identify which one is the instance variable and which one is the parameter. So at that situation, we can refer the particular instance variable by using this keyword. Okay, this dot number. So this dot number means this always refers to the current object. So it is always referring to the current object number. And also this dot name equals to, here I am providing name for suppose. And also this dot address equals to address for suppose. So initializer, after that here I am writing some information void print data for suppose. In the print data method I am printing that data system dot so out dot println. Here I am printing that information. Here what is the information number for suppose I am printing. After that here I am appending tab space for suppose, tab space, and after that here I am appending name. So again I am appending tab space and also address like this. So this is one class for suppose. Here I am creating an object in another class. Why? Because if you are creating an object means we need to define one main method. Inside main method only we are creating an object. For this here I am writing test stu. My class name is inside main method. Here I am creating a student object. So how to create a student object? Student st equals to new student. So one important point about constructor is whenever we are creating object, automatically constructor is invoked. Okay, generally if you are creating object, automatically constructor is invoked. So here I am passing parameters, automatically the parameterized constructor is invoked. Suppose one KSR and Hyderabad for suppose, here I am passing. At that situation, automatically parameterized constructor is invoked. This one is passed to this number. Why? Because if you are creating an object means what is the meaning of object creation actually? Object creation means allocating memory for the object. So if the memory is allocated means one copy of the memory is allocated for number and also name and address and also student constructor and print data. So if you are calling if you are creating object, automatically the particular object constructor will be executed. So one is passed to the number and KSR is passed to the name. Same HYD is passed to the address. That number contains one. That one is assigned to the actual instance variable. So this dot number refers to the current object variable. What is the current object variable? Instance variable number. This dot name and this dot address. I am assigning address. This dot address equals to address. So address contains HYD. That address is assigned to the object address. After that, here I am calling st.printData method. Here I am calling. So automatically the first object data is printed. The data will be printed like this: number, and after that name, and after that address. So number 1, name, KSR and HYD is printed. But suppose if you want to create another object like this, we can create any number of objects. But we are passing the object data dynamically or not? Object data dynamically. Here I am passing through parameterized constructor for suppose. So some narration for suppose. And also HYD. So automatically one more object, second object is created. That second object is initialized with this data to Naresh and also HYD. Okay, second object is initialized with some other information. Okay, 1 second. Here I am. Total 5 users are there. Lakshman. Who is Lakshman? I think. Okay. So st.print data. Here I am printing automatically. Not st, here st1. Why? Because this one is the reference variable. Don't give the same reference variable names to the two objects. Okay, reference variable names will be different and references also different. So execute this example for suppose. Always save your program with test.stu.java. Why? Because this program contains two classes, but one class contains main method. This test.stu class contains main method. So it is compulsory to save this program with test.stu.java. Not mandatory, but recommended way. You can use any name to save that program actually. So in D drive, in Rajiv folder, so test.stu.java here I am writing. So go to the command prompt here. This one is paint is opened actually. 1 second. CMD in command prompt in D drive cd space Rajiv folder and javac space test.stu.java and java space test.stu. Okay, here I am getting one error. Public class student. Class student is public, should be declared in a file name student.java. Okay, this is public only, but here I am writing public constructor. Okay, here I am removing the public keyword for suppose. Here also other situation for suppose here public constructor is not required. Here remove this one. javac test.stu.java, after that java space test stu. Here I am writing. Automatically first object and second object contains same data. Why? Because here I am calling st.print data, not st1.print data. That is the reason. So if you are calling st1.print data, each object contains different data here. Okay, this is the previous class example I discussed. st1.print data means first object contains one ksr hyd and second object contains Naresh, two Naresh hyd, like this. So what exactly, for suppose interviewer is asking a question, what exactly the difference between default constructor and parameterized constructor means? Default constructor is useful to initialize all objects with same data, but parameterized constructor is useful to initialize each object with different data. Okay, parameterized constructors are useful to initialize each object with different data. And one more difference is default constructor does not have parameters, but parameterized constructors have parameters. And also one more difference is whenever we are creating an object, at the time of creating object, if we are not passing any parameters, automatically default constructor is invoked. But if we are passing parameters, for suppose here I am passing parameters at the time of creating object, so automatically parameterized constructor is invoked. Okay, that is the major differences between the default constructor and parameterized constructor. So what is the difference between, another interview question is what is the difference between constructor and a method? Okay, some people are asking questions like that. What is the difference between constructor and method? So what is the difference? Generally methods are mainly for implementing the business logic. What is business logic actually? We are performing some mathematical operations and we are performing that means we are writing number of logics in your program. So for implementing the particular business logics we are using methods. But what is the necessity of constructors? Constructors are writing for initialization purpose only. That means for suppose if you want to initialize any variables, at that situation only we are using constructors. Okay, that is the only difference. So when coming to this document here, observe this document. I already forwarded this document to your mail IDs. Here constructors for suppose. So here observe these points. So object creation is not enough compulsory. We should perform initialization. Here observe this one. Here I am zooming this document little bit. Okay. Object creation is not enough compulsory. We should perform initialization. Then only object is in a position to provide the response properly. Okay. Generally, object creation means if you are creating an object, it is compulsory. It is the duty of the programmer to initialize the object or not. Initialize the object. So that means whenever we are creating object, some piece of code will be executed automatically to perform initialization of an object. So where that piece of code we are writing? Inside constructor. Okay, that piece of code is nothing but a constructor. So the main objective of constructor is to perform initialization of an object. So this example only I discussed previously, but here I am taking name and roll number only. So this one is called as constructor here. Student. Here observe this one. Name will be same or not? Constructor name and class name is same, but this one is parameterized constructor. Why I am calling this one as parameterized constructor? Here I am passing two parameters, name and also roll number. Here I am using this keyword. For example, for suppose in the previous example only, here I am not passing this keyword. What happens? Number equals to number, name equals to name, address equals to address. At that situation we are getting default values. Instead of original values we are getting default values. So save this one and execute this example for suppose. Java C test.stu.java, Java test.stu. Here observe the output. Instead of original values, the default values are returned. Why? Because here Java JVM cannot identify the instance variables. Which one is the instance variable and which one is the formal parameter? JVM cannot identify it. So that is the reason instead of original values, the default values are returned. The default value for integer is 0 and the default value for string is null, like this. Number, name and address. Name is a string and also address is also one string. So instead of original values, default values are written. So it is compulsory if both the names are same, if the parameter name and also actual instance variable name is same, it is compulsory to maintain by using this keyword, this dot number and this dot name and also this dot address, like that. Okay. Here observe this point here. Here also I am using this dot name equals to name. Why? Because here formal parameter name, that means method parameter, constructor parameter and actual instance variable name must be same. Actual instance variable name means we are defining some variables inside a class or not. Those variables are called as instance variables. Those variables are created in object. That is the reason. Like this. Here I am creating one object for suppose student S1 equals to new student of Vijay Bhaskar, comma 101. What happens? Automatically one object is created. At the same time constructor is invoked. Why? Because here I am passing parameters or not? Parameters. So automatically parameterized constructor is invoked. So the instance variable name contains Vijay Bhaskar. That means Vijay Bhaskar is passed to the name. This dot name equals to name means this dot name means current class instance variable contains Vijay Bhaskar. And also I am passing 101, that roll number contains 101. This one is S1 object. And like this, if you are creating another object, means another object is created, but that object also contains name and roll number, but I am passing different values here, Bhaskar and 102, like this. First object contains one different Vijay Bhaskar and 101. The second object contains Bhaskar and 102, like this. Okay, this is about constructor. Okay, any questions? Hello.
No.
Okay. Prajwala madam, any questions? No questions. You understand this topic? No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay.
And next one is constructor versus instance block. So constructor versus instance block means generally previously already I think because already the Java previously learned. So static block, static block. What is static block? If you are writing static keyword after that open curly brace and closing curly brace, that one is called as static block. So JVM gives highest preference to the static blocks among static methods. So generally if you are writing one program, for suppose here I am writing one program. In this program I am writing a main method and also as well as static block, for suppose. Class test SAM2, for suppose. So inside this one here I am writing one static block. So here I am printing some message system.out.println. Here I am printing the static block, for suppose. And also here I am writing main method also, public static void main, for suppose. Public static void main of string s. Here inside this one here I am printing main method, for suppose system.out.println of, here I am printing the main method. Just for understanding purpose. So in this program here one static block I defined and one main method. So JVM gives highest preference to the static block among static method. So who is that person? That person is changed presenter. Hello, Mr. Sukesh.
Yeah, sir. Actually,
Actually, you changed the presenter. You also a student?
yeah. I'm a student. I don't know what happened.
Okay, 1 second. I'm taking my control.
Actually, the audio was lost, so I was trying to do something.
Actually, that
to
people
get the
are not
audio.
intimated to me. That is the reason I am not. Okay. So now we are getting audio.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting audio, but I'm not getting video.
Okay. Now we are.
Yeah. I got it.
Okay. So your class test SAM2, for suppose. Here I am writing static block, for suppose, and main method. So JVM gives highest preference to the static blocks among static methods. So if you are executing this example, for suppose test SAM2, where I am saving this program. Sukesh, please mute your volume. Why? Because some noisy we are getting. Okay, thank you. And also here D drive, in D drive, for suppose Rajiv folder, for suppose I created test. What is the file name actually? The file name is test SAM2, for suppose. Test SAM2.java. So here Java C space test SAM2.java and Java space test SAM2. Here I am writing So which one is first executed actually? Static block is first executed, after that only main method is executed. So that means JVM first checks the static block. That means if you are writing a program, generally JVM first checks whether there is any static method, static block is defined or not. If the static block is not defined, then only the main method is executed. So JVM gives highest preference to the static block first, and after that it gives preference to the static methods. Then finally it gives preference to the instance methods. Okay, this is the order. Okay, first static blocks, JVM gives highest preference to the static blocks. For suppose the interviewer is asking a question, for suppose, is it possible to write a Java program without main method? Okay, is it possible to write a Java program without main method? The question is it possible to write a Java program without main method? Without main method, is it possible means before JDK 1.5 version. Today we are using JDK 1.8 version actually. So before JDK 1.5 version, yes, it is possible to write a Java program without main method also. Why? Because for suppose if you are writing a Java program now, for suppose without main method, what happens here? Observe this one. Here I am removing the main method. So here I am executing the same program again, for suppose. So the program is compiled properly. The program is compiled. We are not getting any compile time error. But at the time of execution, we are getting runtime error. What is that error? Main method are not found in class test SAM2. Please define the main method as like this. Why? Because in JDK 1.8 version, without main method, it is not possible to execute a Java program. But before JDK 1.5 version, that means in J2 SDK 1.4 version, as it is possible to execute a main method, execute a Java program without main method also. So at that situation, the program is compiled and executed. First static block is executed in J2 SDK 1.4 version. Static block is executed means the static block is printing a message. 1 second, an important call from training team. Okay. So in J2 SDK 1.4 version, if the main method is not defined means first static block is printed. The output of this program is in J2 SDK 1.4 version. If you are executing the program javac space test sam2.java, the program is executed. If you are typing java space test sam2, automatically what is the output means first static block is printed. After that we are getting one exception. What is that exception? No such method error exception. No such method error. You are getting no such method error exception. Why? Because first it executes static blocks, after that this one checks for the main method. So if the main method is not available, automatically what happens? The main method is not available means automatically in J2 SDK 1.4 version it displays an exception. Okay, that exception is no such method error. But in JDK 1.8 we are getting error or not? Directly we are getting error. Please define the main method like this. Okay, main method not found in class test SAM2. So please define the main method as like this. Okay, this type of error we are getting. So this one is called as static block. Static block means, what is block generally? Block means open curly brace and closing curly brace. This one represents a block of statements. Static block means this one is preceded by this block is preceded by the static keyword or not? Static keyword. So this one is called as static block. And what is instance block generally? Instance block means simply open curly brace and we are writing closing curly brace inside a class. This one is called as instance block. For example, your class sample, for suppose here I am writing. So inside sample here I am writing one constructor. So here I am defining one variable, for suppose sample of here int x one variable I define. So sample here I am passing the parameter int x. And also inside this one, this dot x equals to x I am providing on this dot x equals to x. So after that here I am writing one instance block. This one is called as instance block. So here I am defining one variable, for suppose the variable is, here I am counting the number of objects, static int count equals to 0, for suppose. Here I am defining one variable. Here I am defining this variable as static. What is the meaning of static? If you are declaring variable as static, only one copy of memory is created internally, that is shared to all the objects. So here I am writing a count plus plus, for suppose. So count plus plus like this. So here I am incrementing the count every time whenever we are creating object. So here I am writing one show method, for suppose void show. Here I am displaying the x value. System dot out dot println of x. So after that here I am creating main method. So class test sample. Inside main method here I am creating an object public static void main of, here I am passing string s, for suppose. So here I am creating one sample class object. How to create sample class object? Sample sa equals to, here I am writing new sample of 10, for suppose here I am passing. So here I am calling sa dot show method, here I am calling, and also I am creating two more objects, for suppose. So sample sa equals to sa1 equals to new sample of 20, and also sa1 dot show, here also I am calling, and also sample sa2 equals to, for suppose new sample of 30, for suppose here I am passing, and also here also sa2 dot show. Finally I am printing count value. So system dot out dot println, here I am printing sa dot count value, for suppose. So what happens here? Observe this one. Generally this instance block is always executed before the constructor. Okay, instance block is always executed before the constructor. Generally whenever we are creating object, what happens? Automatically constructor is invoked. So before executing constructor, first the instance block is executed, after that only constructor is executed. Here observe this document. In this document, constructor versus instance block. So both instance block and constructor will be executed automatically for every object creation, but instance block first followed by the constructor. Okay, for every object creation both constructor and instance block both are executed, but instance block first and after that it is followed by the constructor. First instance block is executed, after that only constructor is executed. So what is the main objective of constructor? Generally initializing an object, to perform initialization of an object. And also, other than, if you, for suppose you observe this point, other than initialization, if you want to perform any activity for every object creation, so we have to define that activity code inside instance block. Okay, for suppose other than initialization, if you want to perform any other activity, but constructors are specially dedicated for initialization purpose only. Okay, but at the time of object creation, if you want to perform any activity, that activity code we are writing inside instance block only. Okay, so but both concepts are different. What are the both concepts? Instance block concept is different and constructor concept is different. Why? Because constructors takes arguments, but instance block is not taking any argument, or instance block is not taking any argument. Constructor is used for initialization purpose, but instance block is mainly used for if you want to perform any activity at the time of creating an object, that activity code we are writing inside instance block. So we cannot replace constructors with instance block, as well as we cannot replace instance block with constructors. Okay, like that. So here in this example, for suppose static int count equals to 0, I define one variable, but this count is a static variable. So static variables are and instance variables are not completed actually. So just understand, if you are defining static variable, for all objects only one copy of memory will be created. Where the memory will be created means in the method area the memory will be created. Here I am writing open curly brace and closing curly brace. This one is instance block. So inside instance block I am incrementing the value of count. Here I am writing one default constructor. So this one is default constructor, test open parenthesis and closing parenthesis. This one is default constructor, and this one is parameterized constructor, test open parenthesis and closing parenthesis int I, parameterized. Inside main method I am creating first object. Here I am creating three objects, for suppose test t1 equals to new test. What happens here? Automatically default constructor is invoked, or default constructor is invoked. So before calling the default constructor, first it executes the instance block. So it executes the instance block means the instance block contains code count plus plus. Already initially the count value is 0, automatically count value is incremented by 1. Okay, so for after first object creation, what is the count value? 1. For suppose here I am creating second object, for suppose test t2 equals to new test of 10, for suppose here I am passing. So if you are creating another object, automatically what happens? Parameterized constructor is invoked here. Okay, why? Because here I am passing parameters. So before calling that parameterized constructor, once that instance block is executed, already count value is 1, so only one copy is maintained, so count value becomes 2 after creating second object. Like that, after creating third object, first instance block is executed, count value becomes 3. So if you are printing count value, finally what is the count value is returned? 3. So this is about instance block. So what is the main conclusion about instance block? Instance block is executed always before the constructor. Before the constructor means whenever we are creating object, actually constructor and instance block both are executed, but first instance block is executed, after that is followed by the constructor. Okay, clear? Any doubts, any questions about this topic, instance block? Hello, Rajiv, Prajola madam.
Yeah,
Any?
I'm okay.
Okay. Sukesh, can you hear me? Hello, Sukesh, are you there? Okay, not responding. and rules to write constructors for suppose. What are the rules you are following while writing constructor? That rules I already discussed. So what are the rules? Name of the constructor name and class name must be same, and also return type concept is not allowed in the case of constructors. That means constructors does not have return type. For suppose if you are specifying return type, what happens? For suppose the interviewer is asking questions like that. Constructor does not have return types, but even if I am specifying return type for the constructor, what happens? Here observe this code, below code. Here class test I am writing. Hello, Sukesh.
Yeah, sir. I'm here.
Okay. Mute your
Can you
volume.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. After this session, I will discuss with you. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, just
Yes.
mute your volume and listen the lesson. If you are understanding, no, or not understanding, not an issue. Okay, why? Because
Okay.
this is the first session. So mute your volume and
Yeah.
listen the lesson.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
So class test for suppose. Void test here. Void is a return type here. Here I am specifying void. Void. This is a constructor. The class name and constructor name must be same or not? Must be same. So test and test. These both names are same. But here I am specifying void before the constructor name. Actually, what is the rule? Constructors does not have return types. Okay. So at that situation, what happens means Java compiler treats this one as a method, not a constructor. Okay, this program is compiled, no problem. Why? Because the Java compiler treats this one as a method. Why? Because methods are only having return types or not? Methods are only having return types. So, but at the time of execution, at runtime, we are getting error. The compiler simply treats this one as a method. The compiler compiles the program. You would not get any compile time error here. Observe this point. Even if we are not declaring the return type for constructor, we would not get any compile time error. And runtime error compiler, and runtime error we are getting. Compiler simply treats this one as a method. Okay, so don't declare a return type for the constructor. Okay, it is a legal, but that is not recommended. If you are specifying return type means the program is compiled properly, but we are not getting the in runtime we are getting errors. And also the only applicable modifiers for the constructor is public, default and private and protected. Only these modifiers are only allowed. Other modifiers are not allowed. Is it possible to provide any other modifier like static before the static and also transient or any modifier before the constructor name means? That one is not accepted. Only the allowed applicable modifiers are public, default, private and also protected. If you are using any other modifier, what happens? You are getting compile time error. Okay, you are getting compile time error. Here observe this example for suppose. Here I am defining one constructor, but what is the modifier here I am specifying? Static modifier before the constructor. But static modifiers are not allowed in the case of constructors or not. In the case of constructors, static modifiers are not allowed. Okay, so modifier static not allowed here. That is the message we are getting. Okay, this is about constructors. When coming to the default constructors, what is default constructor? A constructor without parameters is called as default constructor. So for example, observe this one. So for understanding this one, first we have to understand inheritance and super keyword. For example, here I am discussing inheritance concept for suppose. So what is inheritance? Actually, inheritance means deriving a new class from already existing class is called as inheritance. Here I am writing one Java program. Your main thing is Java supports only single inheritance only. Okay, what is inheritance actually? Inheritance. So deriving a new class from already existing class is called as inheritance. So that means the derived class can acquire all the features of existing class or not. Can acquire all the features of existing class. For suppose take C++ and other object oriented programming languages. So that object oriented programming languages supports different types of inheritances. Okay, different types of inheritance relationships. What are the different types of inheritances supported by the C++ means single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance. There are different types of inheritances supported by the C++. But Java supports only single inheritance only. Java supports only single inheritance, only single inheritance only. But there is a mean to achieve multiple inheritance also. But there is a mean to achieve multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance in Java. Okay. How can you achieve multiple inheritance means through interfaces concept, for suppose. Okay, through interfaces concept we can achieve the multiple inheritance. For suppose the interviewer is asking a question, Java supports single inheritance or multiple inheritance means your answer is Java supports single inheritance only in the case of classes. But in the case of interfaces we can achieve multiple inheritance. That means we can extend a new class from already existing only one class only. Why multiple inheritance is not supported by Java means, if you are observe this diagram, if you are taking multiple inheritance as an example, we are deriving a new class from more than one class or not? We are deriving a new class from more than one class. For example, this one is first class, A class, for suppose that one is, this one is B class, like this one is C class, like this 10 classes are there, for suppose. We are deriving a new class from already existing 3 classes. So at that situation what happens? Here I am deriving a new class from already existing 3 classes. So all the methods in this present in this A class, B class and C class, all the methods, whatever the methods defined in A class, whatever the variables defined in A class, and also in the same way whatever the members defined in B class, in the same way whatever the members present in C class is available to the D class. At the situation the programmer got confusion while calling methods and while calling variables, everything. 3 classes there is no confusion, but if you are working with hundreds of classes means there is a lot of headache to the programmer. So that is the reason multiple inheritance. Java is a simple language. Simple language means easy to understand and easy to write the code, and no ambiguity, no confusion. So that is the reason this multiple inheritance is removed from Java. But there is a mean to achieve multiple inheritance. At what type of situations we can achieve multiple inheritance means at the time of interfaces concept. In interfaces concept we can achieve multiple inheritance. So the correct answer for the question is Java supports single inheritance, but there is a mean to achieve multiple inheritance. So how can you implement inheritance, single inheritance in Java? So by using extends keyword. What is the keyword? By using extends keyword can implement a inheritance in Java. Extends keyword only. So for example observe this one. And what is the main benefit of inheritance is code reusability is one of the important feature of inheritance. Code reusability. What is the meaning of code reusability means? Without rewriting the superclass code again in the subclass, we are just providing inheritance. we are not writing the code again in subclass. Without rewriting it, we can access all the methods of superclass in subclass. Here observe this example. For suppose class teacher, here I am writing for suppose class teacher, and also here is teacher is having id and also string name and also address. Teacher is having address and also teacher is having salary for suppose id salary. So for each instance variable here I am writing one setter method and getter method. What are the setters and getters? For suppose if you want to set the values for individual instance variables, at that situation we are using setter methods. So there are majorly two types of methods are there. We are not calling that methods are setters and getters. Actually mutator methods and accessor methods. What are the methods? Mutator methods and accessor methods. There are two types of methods are there. Mutator methods and another one is accessor methods. What is mutator method? Mutator methods are mainly for modifying the instance variable values. That means modifying the object variables. For example, setter methods, all setter methods are mutator methods, and accessor methods are mainly for accessing the value of instance variable. So all getter methods are accessor methods. So here I am writing mutator methods and also accessor methods for these values, for suppose for these variables. So here I am writing void set id. Here I am passing id int id. So here I am assigning this dot id equals to id. Here I am writing, and also here I am writing int get id. Here I am writing return id or not, return id. Why? Because this get id method return type is integer type. It is compulsory to return integer value, and also void set name. For suppose here I am writing set name of string name. Here I am passing. So this dot name equals to name, and also string get name. Here I am writing string get name. Why? Because this get name method returns the name or name. So here I am writing return name, and also set address and get address. So void set address. For suppose set address of string address. Here I am passing. So here I am writing this dot address equals to address, and also string get address method here I am calling. Why? Because get address method returns address, so the address value is always string. So compulsory we should specify the return type as string only. So get address. Here I am writing return address only, and after that one more attribute is, that means one more instance variable is salary. So void, here I am writing set salary of int sal. So this dot sal equals to, that means this dot salary equals to salary. Here I am writing. So here I am writing setters and getters for the instance variables in teacher class. Again I am writing another class, for suppose class student. Okay, class student, for suppose. So if you are taking class student as an example, so student is also having an integer id and also string name. Student is also having some name, and also student is also having address, but a student is having marks, some extra properties marks. So if you are writing student class, again we need to redefine the variables not required. Why? Because already that variables are already defined in teacher class. id, name and address already defined in teacher class. There is no need to define the variables again in subclass. So here I am just extending the, for suppose if you are writing the class again individually means again we need to write all the methods or not. Again we need to write all the methods, set id, set name, get address. So all the methods again we need to write, for suppose like this. At that situation automatically the complexity will be increased or not? The space complexity will be increased. Why? Because the same code only I am writing again in the student class also. But this much of implementation is not required. Instead of that one, here just I am specifying only marks only. Okay, only some extra attributes only I am specifying. The remaining code I am getting from the parent class. Here I am writing class student extends teacher. Here I am writing. Here what is the existing class and what is the derived class here? Existing class is teacher class. Teacher class is the already existing class, and newly derived class is called as student class. That means the student class can acquire all features of teacher class. Features means both data members and methods. So we can achieve code reusability by using inheritance. That means without rewriting the id, name and also address, without rewriting all the entire code, automatically that code is available to student also. But salary is also available, but student is not having salary. We are not implementing that salary variable. So just I am specifying the properties for the extra variables only. What is the extra variable I defined in student class? Marks. So here I am writing void set marks of int m, per suppose. So here I am writing marks equals to m, I am specifying. After that here I am writing int get marks. Here I am writing, for suppose int by get marks. Here I am writing return marks. So like this. So here student object contains id, name, address, marks, all the properties. Why? Because here I am not defining id, name and address, marks and methods. Even if you are not defining, automatically whatever the methods defined in the super class. What is the super class here? Teacher class is the super class. Whatever the variables and methods defined in the super class, those variables and methods are available to the subclass automatically. There is no need to redefine again in subclass. Okay, that is inheritance. So here I am creating an object, for suppose test inherit. Example name is test inherit. Here I am creating an object of student. So how to create a student object? Here I am creating a student object. Student st equals to, here a new student here I am creating, for suppose. So automatically here I am creating student object. So student object contains id, name, address and also marks. Salary is also available, but I am not implementing the salary. So st dot set id, here I am calling set id of 1. Here I am passing. So set id of 1 means actually set id method is defined in teacher class, but here I am calling that one by using student object or not? By using student object. No problem. Why? Because that is available to the student object also. Like this. st dot set name, for suppose here I am calling set name of ksr, here I am passing, and also st dot set address of hyd. Here I am setting the values to the instance variables by calling the methods, and also finally st dot set marks. I am not setting salary. Why? Because this one is student object. So student object is only salary variable is available, but I am not setting any value for the salary. Okay, I am not using the variable salary. After that, here I am getting the values. For suppose system dot out dot println. Here I am writing st dot get id, for suppose st dot get id, and another one is st dot What is the method? Here I am calling st dot get name. So get id method returns the id, get name method returns the name, like this. St dot get address, here I am calling, and also st dot finally get marks method I am calling. Get marks, and close this one, close this one. So what happens if you are creating an object? So that object contains set id method and get id method, student object. So set id method I am calling. Automatically this one is passed to the number. Why? Because in the set id method here I am assigning this dot id equals to id. So this id is 1. That 1 is assigned to the current object id. Like that name also. If you are calling set name method, for suppose st dot set name of name means that name is passed to this formal parameter name, and that dummy value, that dummy parameter value I am assigning to the actual instance variable, this dot name. So like this all the methods are called. Only get marks method is only set marks and get marks method only available in the student object, but remaining all methods are inherited from the teacher object. Okay, that means remaining all methods are inherited from teacher class only. So if you are executing this example, for suppose test inherit.java, for suppose test inherit.java, save this one and execute this example. Java C space test inherit.java. We are getting one error. Why? Because we are getting this class or interface expected means we are defining some extra brackets or we are removing some extra brackets. At that situation only we are getting class or interface expected error. So remove these braces. Java C test inherit.java, Java space, and I am specifying test inherit. So automatically we are getting the number, name, and also address, and also marks for the first object. Like this we can create any number of objects. For each object we can call setter methods and getter methods. Setter methods are mainly for setting the values, and getter methods are mainly for the getting the values of the instance variables. So what you observed in the inheritance actually here, some methods and some variables I already defined in superclass. Here superclass means already existing class is called as superclass. Teacher class is the already existing class. And what is the newly derived class? The newly derived class is student class. So without rewriting the code, entire code again in the separate class, in student class, we are just extending the from the teacher class student extends teacher. If we are writing like that, automatically what happens? Whatever the code we are writing inside the superclass, that code is available to the subclass, like that. Okay, this is about inheritance. Is it clear? Any doubts about inheritance?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, tomorrow I can intimate the timing. Why? Because tomorrow my Saturday, I think. Friday. Tomorrow Friday. Tomorrow the session is at regular time only. Okay, on Saturday I can forward the timings through WhatsApp. Okay.
Oh.
And also you can
And
forward your.
can you share today's recording session?
You are not recording these sessions, madam.
No, here it's getting like record this meeting. The session is being recorded. It's coming.
Yes. Okay. After closing the meeting, okay, one window will be displayed like this. After closing go to meeting, the window will be displayed like this. Here observe this one. Recording manager is displayed.
Okay.
Okay, this recording manager.
Okay.
Here these are the recordings to record. That means convert. Here I am selecting the particular recording and convert recording.
Okay.
Here different formats are available. Okay, we can choose the appropriate format and click on convert recording. Like this, automatically the recordings will be converted. So the converted
Okay.
recordings are displayed at bottom. The converted recordings are here. Just click on here open. Okay, that locates to the particular video automatically. Okay, just copy this video and paste it into your corresponding location. Okay,
Okay.
this is the way. Regularly, don't forget to record the meeting. Why? Because at your end only you can record the meeting. Okay, at your end only directly.
Okay.
Okay, tomorrow also at the same time only.
Can you share that OOPS document, sir?
I already forwarded the WOOP documents actually.
But I didn't get any.
No. I forwarded. I think once Prajula madam once check it out. I forwarded one mail regarding that WOOPS document and Java fundamental
Yeah,
document.
yeah. Yesterday, yeah. Yesterday you have been shared, so I got the material.
Yes, and even Rajiv mail ID also I added actually. Sukesh, I am not adding you.
Oh,
Okay, Sukesh, today only you joined in the session. That is the reason.
okay, no problem.
Okay, no problem. Today I can forward it. Okay, okay, Rajiv and Prajula madam, you can leave the session now. I can talk with Mr. Sukesh. Okay, some for 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, Sukesh.
Yeah, sir.
Um, so actually, previously Java. That means Java
Um,
Academy.
uh, yeah, but not too much, sir. I just know the basics like hoops and all those concepts. I don't
Okay.
know the coding and all.
You are for suppose in this class you are understanding or not understanding in this class.
Actually, have
In this
understood the inheritance topics, and on all those, because and have the doubts in the
Yes.
constructor and the instant
Okay.
block.
Okay. So just to do one thing, on Saturday I'm arranging the session in a separate time. Okay.
Okay,
I
okay,
complete the already completed classes. I discuss on Saturday and Sunday. Okay.
okay. And yesterday, what you have discussed, it, sir? Like in yesterday's class?
In the previous classes,
Yeah, previous
how
class.
to write a class and also constructor the topics.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
But normally in your academics we are learning only the basic things only. But I am covering up to SCJP level. Okay, Sun Certified Java Programming level. So
okay. No problem.
you can
Thank you.
proceed with that.